ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ودخل معه السجن فتيان قال أحدهما إني أراني أعصر خمرا وقال الآخر إني أراني أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا تأكل الطير منه نبئنا بتأويله إنا نراك من المحسنين قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما ذلكما مما علمني ربي إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون واتبعت ملة آبائي إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء ذلك من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون يا صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار ما تعبدون من دونه إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان إن الحكم إلا لله أمر ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. اللهم أرنا حقيقة الأشياء كما هي. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Moving right along, we left Surah Yusuf as Yusuf alayhi salam was being sent to jail. So he had actually asked to be sent to jail, asked Allah to be sent to jail. The women were kind of getting out of control, and he wasn't okay with that at all. And on seeing whatever was going on, obviously the society was pretty degenerate, and they had no other way, or they couldn't face the embarrassment that it was their women, their married women, who were going around trying to trap Yusuf alayhi salam one way or the other. And so, long story short, they decided just accuse him, despite all evidence being in his favor, and send him to jail. Again, very the similarity between that and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in that all the evidence was in his favor, that he is telling the truth, that he is on the side of justice, yet the decision was against him. And as for the incarceration of Yusuf alayhi salam, that corresponds to the incarceration or the boycott that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and not just him, the entire Banu Hashim, had to face at the hands of the Quraysh. There's a lot of similarities, none more so. They don't become any more apparent than towards the very end of the surah itself, and we're going to talk about it as we get there. So as he gets to jail, وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَتَيَانٍ, two young men also joined him in prison. قَالَ أَحَدُهُمَا إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَعْصِرُ خَمْرًا, one of them said, I saw this dream that I am squeezing, or I was squeezing to extract wine. وقال الآخر, and the other one said, إني أراني أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا, I saw in a dream that I was carrying bread on my head, تأكل الطير منه, and that birds were picking from it. نبئنا بتأويله, please tell us the interpretation of it. إنا نراك من المحسنين, we see you as a person of excellence. We see that you are this great man. So Yusuf alayhi salam, by how he carries himself, he distinguishes himself. And it is apparent for those watching that this person is trustworthy, knowledgeable. And so they approach him, they ask him about these two very clear dreams that they've seen, that they want to know what they mean. قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه. Yusuf alayhi salam responded, you will not be served the food that you are provided, إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما. But before that, I will tell you its interpretation. ذلكما مما علمني ربي. That is the basis on what my Rabb has taught me. إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله. I have in fact forsaken the religion of those who do not believe in Allah, وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ, and they even deny the hereafter. So Yusuf alayhi salam sees this as an opportunity. They've approached him for help in a matter that concerns them, that they feel Yusuf alayhi salam can help them with. And Yusuf alayhi salam says that, of course, I can help you with that. But before I get there, let me tell you how it is that I have this ability to help you. Where is this ability coming from? And there he starts to introduce himself, and the primary introduction that he gives of himself is that of a muwahhid, that he is he understands for Allah to be his Rabb. Now again, we said this yesterday, when Yusuf alayhi salam is being seduced by the wife of the Aziz, he has all the reason to give in. The injustices that he can highlight that have afflicted him can be the rationalization, the excuse, the justification that a victim who is going to perpetrate an injustice himself typically uses. And they can be the ones that Yusuf alayhi salam uses, but he doesn't. He is able to, through all of that, identify his place as an abd, his responsibility, the values that he has to hold on to, and he does what he has to do and he holds himself to it. Even here in jail now, for God knows how long, and he doesn't know how long that's his stint in jail is going to be either. The why me, and why the hell do I have to go through this, and this is not on, and this is not fair, and it is not fair, and it is unjust, whatever he's having to go through. It is very easy to project the injustice of people, that how people, the freedom that Allah has given them, use that incorrectly, use that irresponsibly, and then others have to suffer. It is very easy for those who are suffering to project that injustice, or the source of that injustice, all the way to God. Okay, this injustice is coming to me, coming at me because of God. God did this. And so any loyalties or anything that they owe him of tawheed, of his rububiyyah, of this, it seems it gets very, very difficult. But Yusuf alayhi salam has this incisiveness to be able to distinguish, to be able to uh, see the injustice of people and to see it distinct from the overall justice of Allah, the justice that allows for, that accommodates a meaning even in the injustice of irresponsible people, such that you can make something incredibly beautiful out of it. And so Yusuf alayhi salam carries himself in a way, even in jail, such that not only does he inspire others, when others come in communication with him, he continues to talk to them of that which is most important to him. And so he tells them that first up, let's be very clear, I got nothing to do with the way that things are carried out by people that you usually see around yourself in this place. The people who don't believe in Allah, I am not one of them. And those who don't believe in the Akhirah, I'm not one of them either. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. Who am I? I follow the way of my forefathers. Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. It can never be. It is not for us that we take anything other than Allah for worship. We cannot do this shirk with Allah. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. And how is this? This is because of this great fadl, this grace of Allah that has been bestowed upon us, وَعَلَى النَّاسِ, and the grace that He bestows upon people. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Yet most people are not grateful. The special privilege that, of course, the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam has, especially the prophets from within the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he acknowledges that fadl, but also goes on to add that this fadl of Allah is universal. This is for everyone to experience, provided they have that attitude of gratitude. Ya sahibi as-sijn. So my fellow prisoners, arbabun mutafarriquna khair. Tell me, are multiple different arbab? You have different masters. Are they better? Amillahul wahidul qahhar, or Allah, the one, the irresistible? Again, Yusuf alayhi salam, more than anybody else, has this recognition of how irresistible al-Qahhar Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِهِ. Those whom you worship besides Him, إِلَّا أَسْمَاءً سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ, are nothing but mere names which you and your forefathers have invented. What is the truth? What is the reality? Backing up your claims that all of these are deities other than Allah, where is that coming from? You got nothing other than claims of your tongues, and at best the claims of your forefathers' tongues. مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِن سُلْطَانٍ. Allah has revealed no authority for them. No evidence, no ayat, nothing. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. And the decision rests with Allah alone. When you do this, you take this right away from Allah, give it to yourself. Give it to yourself unlawfully, without sanction, without authority. Authority rests with Him. How in the world did you elevate yourselves to this position of authority where what you think, without any evidence, without any possibility for anybody else to not to even disagree with you there? How do you just hold on that's reality because you say it's reality? It's something is a God because you say it's a God? How dare you play God yourself? In al hukmu illa lillah. That hukum, that decision, that authority, that power belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Amara, he's the one who has commanded, Allah ta'budu illa iya, that there should not be any worship, nobody else should be worshipped other than Him. That this ibadah relationship you should have with Him. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is the right religion. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people just don't know. يَا صَاحِبِيَ السِّجْنِ. My fellow prisoners. أَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. As for one of you, his master, he will serve his master wine. His Rabb, meaning his master, meaning his king. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ, as we see later that what was referred to as his master was his king, was the king. Other than that, regularly the word Rab is used to allude to the master of the slave in that society as well. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ, but for the other, فَيُصْلَبْ, he's going to be crucified. فَتَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ رَأْسِهِ, and birds will pick from his head. قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ, the case has been decided. الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ, concerning which you are inquiring. وَقَالَ لِلَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا, and so he said, Yusuf alayhi salam said to the one who is going to be released, اذكرني عند ربك, mention me with your Rabb, to your Rabb. When you get out of here and serving him wine, let him know about, there's this person in jail. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ, and but Shaitan made him forget to mention his Rabb. Again, two ways that this has been looked at, that either the person to whom Yusuf alayhi salam is speaking to, when he does get out of jail, when he is serving wine, when he is become the servant to the king, he forgets to mention Yusuf alayhi salam to him. And the other way that it has been read is that Yusuf alayhi salam forgets to mention Allah in this particular case. In any case, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ, and so he stayed in prison for a few years. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ, and one day the king said, إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ سِمَانٍ, I've seen 7 healthy cows. يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعٌ عِجَافٌ, which are being eaten by 7 weak ones. وَسَبْعَ سُنْبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ, and I have seen 7 green spikes of grain. وَأُخْرَ يَابِسَاتٍ, and others that were dry. يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَأ, chiefs, أَفْتُونِي فِي رُؤْيَايَ إِن كُنْتُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَا تَعْبُرُونَ, tell me the meaning of this vision of mine, of this dream of mine, if you can interpret dreams. قَالُوا أَضْغَاثُ أَحْلَامٍ, they replied, these are confused false dreams. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ, and we do not know the interpretation of such dreams. And that is so typical. First, you relegate the authenticity of a field altogether, that it is no good, it is a bunch of confusion, it is just mumbo jumbo, and there's nothing to it. And then go on to add, I don't know anything about it, by the way. I have no knowledge of it. I have no understanding of it. But I do know this, that it's all mumbo jumbo. It's completely false. So, adghathu ahlam, confused, false dreams. Now, we know from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we know from the surah as well, that there is a truth to dreams. There is a lot of truth to dreams. That this capacity that human beings have, this qalb of the human being, we are endowed with an ability to see more than what we have seen during our, with our eyes and in our waking hours as well as in our sleeping hours. We spoke about that intuitive capacity as being something that is very important in the process of acquisition of knowledge, of discovery, of scientific phenomena even, right? Of course, religious phenomena, of course, revelation is the most refined, most protected, most safeguarded form of that intuitive capacity of a human being. But then there's other forms, less protected, less reliable, but nevertheless there's truth in them as well. And the truth value of that which is intuitively perceived, it can then be confirmed, checked. So, one form in which this intuitive process, and we know for a fact, Mendeleev, the, the person, the Russian scientist, the Russian chemist who gave us the periodic table, he was stuck at a particular point in coming up with a periodic table. He had been struggling with the process for quite some time. And the point where he was stuck, the solution for that, he saw formulated in a dream. So, and we know that that ended up being true. We know for Tesla that he too had these intuitive flashes. Einstein spoke of these flashes in his work. Henri Poincaré, another mathematician, he describes his process very, very elaborately. Although the three people that I just mentioned, they didn't specifically talk about dreams, but nevertheless, the intuitive process and their mathematical discoveries in their physics or their development of physics and the way they took it, they were all there. John Nash, the Nobel laureate, and eventually he went on to apparently develop schizophrenia as well. He says that one of the difficulties that he had with schizophrenia was that it was coming from him for to him from the same source that all of the science that he put forward came from. So it became difficult for him to distinguish because he took its the intuition to for what it was saying, and that helped in science, that proved true in science. Anyways, the way this process manifests itself in dreams, and we know how critical dreams can be in getting to understand a person, getting to understand parts of a person that are specifically hidden. Um, Areas that a person is not really paying attention to, and things that are more of a national import or a concern the entire community or the entire country. Those are the lot of the leaders of those people. It doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with being righteous or not righteous necessarily. The king does not seem to be a very um, very saintly person as such. Seems to be a fairly reasonable person, but not exactly saintly. People like Yousuf alayhi salam are in jail, and all of the other stuff that's going around. So in any case, he sees this dream, and there's more to this dream than he can understand, than the people around him can understand, and so they're asking around. وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة. Thereupon one of the two prisoners who was released, now at length he remembered and said, أنا أنبئكم بتأويله فأرسلون. I can tell you its interpretations, just send me. And where did he ask to be sent? Send me to jail, send me to the prison. I'm going to see Yusuf, ask him, and Yusuf ayyuha Siddiq. Yusuf, a truthful one. Of course, why is he Siddiq? Because the interpretation that he offered came to be true. أفتنا في سبع بقرات سمان. Tell us the meaning of a dream in which there are 7 healthy cows, يأكلهن سبع عجاف, which are being eaten by 7 weak ones, وسبع سنبلات خضر, and there are 7 green ears, وأخرى يابسات, along with 7 others, dry, لعلي أرجع إلى الناس لعلهم يعلمون, so that I can return to people letting them know. قال, Yusuf alayhi salam responded, تزرعون سبع سنين دأبا, you will cultivate for 7 years continuously, فما حسدتم فذروه في سنبله, during this time whatever you reap, leave it in the spikes, إلا قليلا مما تأكلون, except a little of what you eat. ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك سبع شداد, the period will be followed by another 7 hard years, يأكلن ما قدمتم لهن, they will consume what you have stored for them, إلا قليلا مما تحسنون, except that which you may have specially set aside. ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام. After that, there will come a year فيه يغاث الناس, in which people will receive abundant rain. وفيه يعصرون, and they will press. Press what? Press from grapes and olives. Now, Yusuf alayhi salam has this incredible ability on account of being a prophet, but as the Quran acknowledges in the very beginning, it is not just on account of being a prophet. This is not just prophetic interpretation that is taking place. Of course, it is prophetic in a lot of ways, but the knowledge that Yusuf alayhi salam has acquired, being raised in that house of that minister, which gives him a good idea as to how the world works, how this sort of stuff works, fields, crops, harvest, people, food, economics, whatever it is that would needed to have been known by Yusuf alayhi salam in order to give this particular interpretation as quickly as he did give it. This is now coming to light. We are now coming to see how Yusuf alayhi salam is able to bring it all together. Again, the value, the truth value of dreams, as we understand it, it fits in when you have the conception of the divine. The deceptive value of dreams, it makes sense when you have a conception of the demonic, right? Again, something that lends credence to how these facts fall in place given these age-old understandings of religion, of monotheism in particular. And then, of course, there is the mumbo jumbo part of the dream as well, which is, or maybe a whole lot of ice cream that you had. All of these possibilities are there, but for the truth, for the idea that there is truth in dreams, and it is inexplicable with respect to however you try to explain it in the form of reason, or the reasoning ability, the conscious reasoning ability of the human being, the conscious experience that a human being has in his or her waking hour. It cannot be explained. The truth is coming from other than that, right? There is so much more that has already gone on before that vision comes to a person in his or her dream, right? So that there is a truth value there, that's fact that we can't contest, for we have seen how that truth value has been verified, validated in waking hours, right? So, and we know the therapeutic value of dreams as well, that how in so many interactions, in so many places, particularly when you're stuck in the process of therapy, dreams to the rescue. There is so much content. There is so much that dreams tell you about a person that otherwise you may not know. And if you go in with the understanding that it's all mumbo jumbo, you're losing out on a very rich therapeutic resource. In any case, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ. So the king said, bring him to me. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرَّسُولُ. So when the king's messenger came to Yusuf alayhi salam, قال, Yusuf said, ارجع إلى ربك فاسأل. Go back to your master and ask him, ما بال النسوة اللاتي قطعن أيديهن. What was the case of the women who cut their hands? إن الرب بكيدهن عليم. For sure, my Rabb is in full knowledge of their scheme. Yusuf alayhi salam is getting a free ticket out of jail. The king is the king. He has the authority. He doesn't need justice or evidence and weighing of evidence to see, can he come out? Can he not come out? Is it okay? Are you guys going to be okay with that if I, hire him or, give him an important post or whatever? Come on, let me know. He doesn't have to do that. He's the king. Like whatever, justice can go to hell. Yusuf alayhi salam, on the other hand, he doesn't play like that. Even if it is in his own favor, he says, no, I want that if I'm being taken out of jail, nobody's doing me any favors. No, the rules or the laws are not being bent, that you're not playing around with justice just to get me out. Even though I know I am innocent. I want for everyone to know that I'm innocent, that if I'm not to blame and that the king is not giving me any special favors. Okay? So ask about the affairs of the woman. Now the king said, now it has become a case to be dealt with or addressed in the royal court of justice. The king said, "Ma khutbukunna idh rawattunna Yusuf an nafsih." What was the matter with you when you all sought Yusuf for yourselves? And of course, the king is already, he knows as well. And he says to them straight up, what was going on with all of that? قُلْنَا. And they said, this is their confession. Hasha lillah. Oh my God. Ma alimna alayhi min su. We don't know him to have any evil on his part. قالت امرأة العزيز. And the wife of the minister said, الآن حصحص الحق. Now the truth has become established. أنا راودته عن نفسي. It was me. I tried to seduce him. وإنه لمن الصادقين. And he is for sure absolutely truthful. ذلك, that ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب. Yusuf alayhi salam said, I asked for that. I wanted this to take place. I wanted her to say this, or I wanted this process to take place. Why? So that he knows. Who knows? The minister. أني لم أخنه بالغيب. That I did not betray him in his absence. وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين. And that Allah for sure does not guide the plan of those who betray. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. And I do not absolve myself from sins. I do not elevate myself to this position of utter purity, this absolute purity. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. For sure, the nafs always instigates towards evil. Again, Yusuf alayhi salam, this وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي is attributed both ways, that this is Yusuf alayhi salam saying it, or this is the wife of the Aziz, the wife of the minister saying this. Either way, the truth, more so if this is coming from Yusuf alayhi salam, given that he is a prophet. But even as a prophet, the human part of the prophet, and you can only be a prophet if you're a human being. On baseline, you have to be human being. There's angels prophet, but there's the prophets are humans. The Rusul, the Anbiya, and how the acknowledgement, the self-consciousness, the self-awareness. There is no denial. There is no personal exaltation of being utterly free of all proclivity towards evil. وَمَا أُبَرْ إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. That the nafs does command to evil. Very strongly too at that. And so Yusuf alayhi salam's acknowledgement, so informative when it comes to the vagaries of the human personality. There's so much that is going on in there, inside of ourselves. There's so many different directions that different parts of ourselves, different dimensions of ourselves are pulling us in. The ambivalence and the multiplicity within what looks like a unity in a human being is pretty incredible. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Except one whom my Rabb has mercy on. Again, this phrase came with respect to the ikhtilaf that people generally have as well. And now then there is all of these tendencies, ikhtilafi tendencies or conflicting tendencies within. Again, the mercy, the rahmah of Allah as a Rabb, something to reflect on. Inna Rabbi Ghafurur Rahim, and most definitely my Rabb is forgiving and merciful. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ. And now the king said, "U'tuni bih, bring him to me. أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي. I will specially give him a special position next to myself, a special privileged position given to Yusuf." فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ. So they had their conversation. Something like a little less than a job interview, but nevertheless a conversation that they're having. قَالَ. He said, إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. He's more than interviewing him, telling him, the job is yours. You are today established and trustworthy. قال جعلني على خزائن الأرض. Yusuf alayhi salam said, appoint me over the storehouses of the land. Again, this is what Yusuf alayhi salam had in mind. He's seen or he's heard of the dream and he's given the interpretation of the dream. And he knows these people. He knows that these idiots are going to mess it up. It's tough times that are coming. This king and his clout, they're no good. They're good for gossip. They're good for other messed up stuff. They're good for sending the wrong people to jail. But taking care of the gravity of the situation, being able to appreciate it, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And I need to take care of this myself. Pretty straightforward in what he has. No kibr, but the truth nevertheless. This is what it is. I'm the most qualified person for the job. Acknowledging this, putting this up, but he can't do that if he's not already trustworthy. If there is a blemish on his record, ex-con, he went to jail. No, he wants to be very, very clear that that record is clear for the trustworthiness of the position, or the trustworthiness that is necessary for him to carry out the responsibility that he has, that he wants to take up. قال جعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. He said, appoint me over the storehouses of the land. I am definitely knowledgeable and competent. I know what I'm doing as a custodian. وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض. And this is how we established Yusuf in the land. يتبوأ منها حيث يشاء. He could live wherever he wanted. نصيب برحمتنا من نشاء. Again, the word nusibu, it comes from the same root as musiba, right? So it is not just calamities that afflict, mercy afflicts as well. Mercy also strikes. I mean, all of those words have too much of a negative connotation, but you are touched by the mercy of Allah just as you are touched by suffering, by trials and tribulations. Nusibu bi rahmatina man nasha. We touch with our mercy whoever we want, or whoever wants. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And we do not let the reward of the muhsineen go to waste. Again, when is the reward for Yusuf alayhi salam coming in? When did he finally get space to breathe? At least a decade, if not 2 decades, at least. It could have been way more than that. It could have been way more than that. That's how much time he had to continue on his practice of ihsan before the ajr sprouted through. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We do not let the reward of the muhsineen go to waste. وَلَا أَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ. And of course, the return of the hereafter is better. لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. For those who believe, وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And they are the people of taqwa. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف. And the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam came. فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. And they appeared before him. So Yusuf alayhi salam, his responsible administration, managing the affairs of the king and the country, the economic affairs particularly, have resulted in the fact that Egypt has food when nobody in the adjoining areas has food. The famine is pretty widespread, all the way to where Yaqub alayhi salam and his sons live. And so not only did Yusuf alayhi salam end up saving for himself or his own people in Egypt, he ended up saving for the people in adjoining areas as well. And he's administering such that they have enough to share, they have enough to give out. Again, an indication that the prophetic value of Yusuf alayhi salam, the prophetic values rather, his ability that he has on account of being a prophet, his ability that he has on account of being raised in the house of the minister, the moral sense that he has, the responsibility with which, the trust with which he carries himself, that with which he performs his duties, it is pretty obvious that there's a this worldly benefit, that the economic affairs, that's as profane as you get, quote unquote, um, as secular as you get, are being managed in the best way possible. That he is in a position to say that my tawheed, my religiosity, my spirituality, it has empowered me to do what none of you can do. And what has it empowered me to do is something which is something very material. It is part of this material world. It is an economic affair, and I can do it better than anybody else. This truth, or this utility, this fruit of, of the truth that you stand on, this speaks louder than any slogan. This speaks louder than any other claim that you can possibly make of, of the truth that you have. Yusuf alayhi salam did it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, of course, he was able to show that what he has to offer on account of being rooted in the Quran is something which is a mercy to everyone, far and wide. And if we can't do that, if we are anything but a mercy, and we still continue to claim rootedness in the Quran, then we are the fitna that drives people away. The people of this religiosity, people of this spirituality, they got nothing to offer except corruption, treachery, betrayal, unreliability. If that's what they're good for, thank you very much. We don't need this scriptural rootedness. If they can't solve any of our problems, then they can keep their religion to themselves. Yusuf alayhi salam, on the other hand, his religiosity is not degenerate. And he has something of value to offer to the people in his world, regardless of who they are and where they come from. So he recognized them, وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, while they were not able to recognize him. وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ, and when he provided them with their provisions, قال, he said, ائتوني بأخ لكم من أبيكم. Next time when you come, bring your brother from your father, your half brother, Binyamin. So they've had conversations in this transaction that's taking place, and they've told him about a brother that they have who hasn't come with them. Yusuf alayhi salam said, next time bring him. Ala taraun, don't you see? Anni ufil kail, I pay full measure. Wa ana khairul munzilin, I am the best of hosts. Again, it is what it is, right? There's no boasting, there's no arrogance there. It's fact. And so he's not beating around the bush, stating it. There's no artificial humility there. This is who I am. I'm such a wonderful host, and I'm so just. فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ, but if you don't bring him to me, فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي, I will not have anything for you of your share. You're not getting anything. وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ, and don't come near me. قالوا, they said, so نَوْرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ أَبَاهُ, we will try our best to get him from our father, وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ, and we're most definitely going to do it. وَقَالَ لِفِتْيَانِهِ, and so Yusuf said to his servant, اجْعَلُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ فِي رِحَالِهِمْ, place their merchandise back in their saddlebag. So what is this going to do? They're going to go back home. All their merchandise is going to be with them. So now they don't even have to wait until they have something to buy more grain from. So now they can immediately return to Yusuf alayhi salam. I mean, it's been quite a number of years. It is completely understandable if Yusuf alayhi salam wants to hasten the process and get to see his parents again. اجعلوا بضاعتهم في رحالهم. Place their merchandise back in their saddlebags secretly. لعلهم يعرفونها إذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم. So that they see it only when they get back to their family. They're going to be hesitant of taking it back if they see it immediately. They're going to want, like, maybe we're stealing it back. We want to give it to them. And so when they come to their family, لعلهم يرجعون, so hopefully they'll come back again. فلما رجعوا إلى أبيهم, so when they returned to their father, قالوا, they said, يا أبانا منع منا الكيل, that we won't get a share next time until فأرسل معنا أخانا, we take our brother with us, so send our brother with us, نقتل, so that we get our ration, our share of grain. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ, and for sure we're going to take very, very good care of him. قال, Yaqub alayhi salam said, هَلْ آمَنَكُمْ عَلَيْهِ, should I trust you with him? إِلَّا كَمَا أَمِنْتُكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَخِيهِ مِنْ قَبْلِ, just like I trusted you with his brother. فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا, Allah is the best of protectors. If I am letting you take him, not because I trust you, it's because I trust Allah. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, and he is the most merciful of those who show mercy. And if there is anything of trust that I am extending towards you, it's because of my trust in Allah. وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ, and when they opened their bags, وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ, they found that their money has been returned to them. So they're like, oh my God. قالوا, they said, يا أبانا ما نبغي. They're like, Dad, what more do we want? هذه بضاعتنا ردت إلينا. Our money has been returned to us. Our merchandise is with us. We can now use this to go back. وَنُمِيرُ أَهْلَنَا, and we will buy more food for our family. وَنَحْفَظُ أَخَانَا, and we will take good care of our brother. وَنَزْدَادُ كَيْلَ بَعِيدٍ, and we will have an extra camel load of grain. ذَلِكَ كَيْلٌ يَسِيرٌ, that is such easy and easily achievable measure. قال لن أرسله معكم. Yaqub alayhi salam said, I am never going to send him with you حتى تؤتوني موثقا من الله, until you give me your strongest oath in the name of Allah, لتأتونني به, that you will definitely bring him back to me, إلا أن يحاط بكم, except that you are surrounded from all sides by an enemy and some sort of misfortune, whatever, that does not let you come back to me. فَلَمَّا آتَوْهُ مَوْثِقَهُم, so when they gave their pledge, قال, Yaqub alayhi salam said, Allahu ala ma naqulu wakil, Allah is a guardian over all of what we are committing to. وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ, and Yaqub alayhi salam said, my sons, لَا تَدْخُلُوا مِنْ بَابٍ وَاحِدٍ, do not enter through one entrance. وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ, but enter through different gates. 12 brothers coming in from one gate, that's, way too much attention. That's way too much attention. It's a source of envy. They're going to be seeing that this particular bunch of people is going to be returning with a lot of food, or is coming with a lot of money. So you don't want to attract that attention. Separate. The different gates. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, and remember that I will not be able to avail you against Allah one bit. If something of a calamity or some misfortune is going to afflict you, my planning, my suggestions, my advice, they're only so good. Keep to them, do the best you can in following them, but understand that in al-hukmu illa lillah, the decision, the authority rests with Allah alone. We do whatever we know and we follow it to the best of our abilities, but at the end of the day, is it going to bear fruit? Is it going to bring the results we want for it to bring? We don't know. The decision rests with Allah. Alayhi tawakkaltu, so I put my trust in him alone. Wa alayhi falyatawakkalil mutawakkilun, and on him let those who would rely. Whenever you're planning, whenever you're dealing with the future, you're dealing with a situation of uncertainty. Your knowledge, your understanding, your experience, the best of the advice that you can possibly get from the most reliable of sources, it can help you only so much in dispelling that uncertainty, only to a certain degree. You follow the course which dispels the most uncertainty, which gives you the most confidence. Never look for that 100% confidence. You're never going to get that. If you are getting that, then that's probably something to be suspicious about. But however much you can follow the knowledge, the experience, the understanding, best of the advice that you get, and the remaining piece of the uncertainty or the remaining portion of the uncertainty, you trust Allah. And that's why pretty much every decision is a risk that you have to take. The more you do it out of the knowledge that you know, the less the risk. But then the gap that still remains, that's covered with this trust in Allah, which allows for you to then be decisive and move on. What is crippling is indecision, not being able to do something because you're not sure. And why are you not sure? Because you're chasing after this wild goose of 100% certainty. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Not going to happen. Go forth and make a decision. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take a shot. And when you miss, you learn a lesson. Not doing anything, that's the worst place to be in. And so the tawakkul of Allah helping you, facilitating in this process of being more decisive. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُم, and they entered the way their father advised them. مَا كَانَ يُغْنِي عَنْهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, but did not bring them any fortune against the will of Allah. They're in for it. Whatever planning that they had, even though it was coming from as prophetic a source as you get, nevertheless, they're gonna be up for some trouble. إِلَّا حَاجَةً فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا. It was a desire that Yaqub alayhi salam had, and so it satisfied that, got satisfied. وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَّا عَلَّمْنَاهُ, and he is possessor of knowledge. He for sure possessed knowledge because of what we had taught him. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, but most people don't know. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُف, and when they entered before Yusuf alayhi salam, آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ, he called his own brother in privacy. قَالَ إِنِّي أَنَا أَخُوكَ, he told him, it's me, I'm your brother. فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, so do not grieve at whatever they've been doing. So clearly, and Yusuf alayhi salam knows this from experience, that it's not like Binyamin was having the time of his life with the rest of these brothers. They are who they are. They're the ones who threw Yusuf alayhi salam in a well, sold him off. They're not giving Binyamin the best treatment and, loving him and cuddling with him. No, they probably bullied him growing up. And so Yusuf alayhi salam tells them, don't worry about it. Don't worry about all of what they've done to you. Let's see what we can do. فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُم بِجَهَازِهِمْ, and when Yusuf provided them with their provisions, جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ, he placed the royal cup, the drinking cup of the king, into his brother's baggage. ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ, and so a crier called out, أَيَّتُهَا الْعِيرُ, people of the caravan, إِنَّكُمْ لَسَارِقُونَ, you are all thieves. قالوا وأقبلوا عليهم, they turned back and asked, ماذا تفقدون, what did you lose? قالوا, they responded, نفقد صواع الملك, the king's cup, we've lost that. وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ, and Yusuf alayhi salam announced, the one who brings it, the prize for him is going to be a camel load of grain. وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ, and I guarantee it. قالوا تالله لقد علمتم, the brother said, by Allah, you know very well, ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض, we never came to create mischief in the land. وما كنا سارقين, and we are not thieves. قالوا فما جزاؤه إن كنتم كاذبين, they said, but if you prove to be liars, what should we reward you with then? What should be the compensation then? قالوا جزاؤه, they responded, the compensation for such a person, من وجد في رحله فهو جزاؤه, whoever you find that cup in, or the whatever that is stolen in his baggage, he's yours, keep him. You do with him whatever you want. كذلك نجزي الظالمين, that is how we punish the wrongdoers. فبدأ بأوعيتهم قبل وعاء أخيه, and so he started searching their baggage before searching his own brother. ثم استخرجها من وعاء أخيه, and so finally they found it in his own brother's baggage. He found it in his own brother's baggage. كذلك كدنا ليوسف, we planned for Yusuf this way. We conspired with Yusuf this way. ما كان ليأخذ أخاه في دين الملك, He was not going to be able to detain his brother according to the law of the king. As far as the king's law was concerned in Egypt, Yusuf alayhi salam would not have been able to punish the thief by keeping him. So he had to extract it from the brothers themselves. What is their law? And they stated their law. And so once they had stated it, that became the established law that was going to be followed. And so Yusuf alayhi salam was then going to keep Binyamin. Allah was planning this with Yusuf. There's a whole lot of deception going on. Al-harbu khuda. Again, there's uncanny similarities between this and what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how he has to deal with the Quraysh. When they're at war, when they're in open conflict, there's a whole lot of planning and plotting going around. نَرْفَعُ دَرَجَاتٍ مَنْ نَشَاءُ. We exalt in ranks whoever we will. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. And above everyone with knowledge, there is another one with more knowledge. Again, the nature of knowledge being such that no one knowledgeable source can be placed as an absolute authority. And of course, however far you go, above everyone is going to be Allah as the most knowledgeable. And so there is nobody who can make this claim of absolute superiority in any realm of knowledge. And we will see, hopefully, inshallah, if and when we get to Surah Kahf with respect to Musa alayhi salam and Khidr, how that plays around. And it is this recognition of having a relative store of knowledge rather than an absolute um, authority or absolute access to knowledge that allows for this plurality, that allows for this relationship to develop, that you're more of a community of people who are the mutual corrective, mutually informing each other, mutually learning from each other. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. قالوا, they said, إِنْ يَسْرِقْ, if he has stolen, فَقَدْ سَرَقَ أَخٌ لَهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ. His brother also did so before. So in all of these years, rationalizing the crime that they had committed, they have painted a picture of this evil person that Yusuf alayhi salam was. Again, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and how he is depicted by the Quraysh. He broke our families, the relationships that we had, the values of our forefathers, yada, 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 yada. He's being portrayed as this evil person, power hungry and whatnot. فَأَصَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ. Yusuf alayhi salam suppressed his feelings within himself. وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ, and did not reveal anything to them. He felt that triggered him. But he controlled himself. قَالَ أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا. And he said, you are an evil people. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا تَصِفُونَ. Allah is in best knowledge of what you describe. قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ. Yusuf's brothers requested, O minister, إِنَّ لَهُ أَبًا شَيْخًا كَبِيرًا. He has a really, really old father. فَخُذْ أَحَدَنَا مَكَانًا. Take one of us instead. إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We see you as a person of excellent character, a muhsin. قال Allah, Yusuf alayhi salam responded, the refuge of Allah, أن نأخذ, that we hold إلا من وجدنا متاعنا عنده. We hold anyone except the one in whose custody we found our stuff. إنا إذا لظالمون. We would really be unjust if we do so. فلما استيأسوا منه خلصوا نجيا. But when they lost all hope of convincing Yusuf alayhi salam, they got aside to discuss privately. قال كبيرهم. The eldest of them said, ألم تعلموا, don't you know, أن أباكم قد أخذ عليكم موثقا من الله, that your father took this oath from you in the name of Allah. وَمِن قَبْلُ مَا فَرَّطْتُمْ فِي يُوسُف, and what you did in the case of Yusuf before this, how you failed in that case. فَلَنْ أَبْرَحَ الْأَرْضَ حَتَّى يَأْذَنَ لِي أَبِي. And he said, I'm not leaving this. I'm not going back. I can't face my father. until He permits me. أو يحكم الله لي, or Allah brings a decision for me. وهو خير الحاكمين, and Allah is the best of all judges. The situation of the Quraysh throughout Medina, the Medinan phase of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how the strength of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the power of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the victories of Rasulullah, how they are making the people of Quraysh one by one fall on their knees, accepting, how humbling them, so that they are now being able to see the error of their ways, the evil of what they had done prior to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's migration. How he was able to, by that process that took place from Badr, actually even before Badr, all the way to the conquest, how literally he brought them to their knees in submission and acceptance. Their tawheed was becoming more and more of a reality. It wasn't that way before. Their istikbar wouldn't let them see. It wouldn't let them see the evil of what they were doing to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba. Now the best of them had started responding. أو يحكم الله لي, and we see this in the case of the brother of Yusuf alayhi salam, the eldest brother, the same one who said, "Don't kill him, rather throw him in a well." وهو خير الحاكمين ارجعوا إلى أبيكم فقولوا. So go back to your father and tell him, يا أبانا إن ابنك سرق, that father, your son stole, وما شهدنا إلا بما علمنا, and we do not testify except to what we knew. This is very different from how they came back from the Yusuf alayhi salam incident after throwing him in the well. The way they came back, in the conviction and the promise and the what they carried with themselves, and how confidently they asserted themselves that no, this is what it is, and look, we have evidence and all of that. Now they're just going and saying, we're not telling you except what we know. They're more humble in how they're communicating the truth. They weren't as humble when they were communicating a lie. وَمَا شَهِدْنَا إِلَّا بِمَا عَلِمْنَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ, and the unseen is beyond our reach. وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا, as the people of the town in which we were residing. Again, now they are open to external verification. Now they are open to shahida shahidun min ahliha, what we spoke about before. Somebody from the family of her family witnessed against her and witnessed in favor of Yusuf alayhi salam. Now the brothers, the truth being on their side, they're more willing, ask anybody else. They wouldn't have said that in the case of Yusuf alayhi salam. It was their standard that they had brought, and it was their claim, their standard, their claim, and they wanted that to be accepted as evidence. Here they're like, no, we're telling you what we know, and we don't have access to the unseen. Again, now acknowledging their fallibility, which wasn't the case before. Belligerent certainty is usually a cover for not having enough of an evidence or not having enough truth in your favor. Now you see them to be more humble, acknowledging fallibility, and open to an external source outside of themselves verifying them. وَالْعِيرَ الَّتِي أَقْبَلْنَا فِيهَا, so ask anyone. Ask the caravan in which we traveled. وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ, and we are speaking the truth. All Yaqub alayhi salam said, بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. He said again, your nafs has forged this story for you. They're the boy who cried wolf. They lied the first time, so nobody's going to believe them the second time. Even Yaqub alayhi salam is not believing them. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ, patience is most fitting. What else can I do? عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَأْتِيَنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا, it may well be that Allah brings them all back to me. 3 of them now. Yusuf alayhi salam, Binyamin, and Yehuda. Yehuda is the best of the lot. He's the most reasonable of them. 3 of his best sons, Yaqub alayhi salam doesn't have them with him. Innahu huwal alimul hakim. He is certainly the most knowledgeable, the wise. وَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ وَقَالَ, and he turned his face away from them and said, Ya asafa ala Yusuf, my grief for Yusuf. In all these years, he hasn't forgotten him. All these years, the pain is still there because he doesn't know where is he dead or alive. He doesn't know, and that uncertainty is even more painful than knowing that he's gone or that he's died. Ya asafa ala Yusuf. وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And his eyes turned white because of the grief which he was suppressing. The more you suppress grief, and this is genuine grief, this is real pain, the more it manifests itself as physical symptoms, as physical signs of illness. In the case of Yusuf alayhi salam, it was blindness. For he could not bear to see a world without Yusuf alayhi salam in it. And so he wouldn't see anything at all. And how this pain and the physical symptom that it expresses itself as, the symptom is very symbolic. It is very telling of the nature of the pain, of what it's representing. What's the world without Yusuf? When you can't see his face, what's there to see? And see, he loses his sight altogether, crying from grief in his memory. And this is years, at least a decade, if not more, of Yusuf alayhi salam being gone. Qalat Allah, and the son said, by Allah, tafta'u tadhkuru Yusuf. It appears that you're not going to stop remembering Yusuf hatta takuna harada, until you make yourself fatally ill. You're going to kill yourself in his memory. أو تكون من الهالكين. You just kill yourself. You become fatally ill, really chronically ill, or just dead. قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. Yaqub alayhi salam responded, I complain of my distress and my grief to Allah. وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And I know from Allah what you don't. I know, for one thing, as far as Yaqub alayhi salam's relationship with Allah is concerned, it is more nuanced. It is far deeper than how you would typically relate with Allah. There is a space in this relationship for complaining. There is a space in this relationship for venting, for expressing your grief. There is a space in that relationship. And then there is that space from where he has this confidence as well, this hope that he's going to come back. يا بني يذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه. He says, my sons, go search for Yusuf and his brother. ولا تيأسوا من روح الله. And do not despair in the mercy of Allah. This, at the psychological level, Yaqub alayhi salam is grief stricken as anything, suffering like we can't imagine. At the physical level, his suffering has manifested itself in blindness. But at the spiritual level, he complains to Allah, though, not to anybody else about Allah, to Allah. But then he is hopeful. He holds on to faith and he keeps going. Again, like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, two narrations, one mentioning his son and the other mentioning his grandson. When one of them passes away, either his son or grandson, or perhaps on both occasions, he is seen to cry. And Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, of course, they're growing in their understanding of what it means to relate with Allah, what religiosity, spirituality, and its prophetic manifestation really means. They're learning that from him. But they're surprised. Ya Rasulullah, you're crying at a loss. Shouldn't we not do that? Isn't this against sabr, against taqwa, against iman? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam clarifies. This understanding of how you are to carry yourself in episodes of grief is far more nuanced than a simple don't grieve. You're not allowed to grieve. No. He said the heart is sad, again, at the psychological level, grieving. The eyes are teary, at the physical level, literally responding to the grief, crying, but the hands and the tongue do not say anything against the will of Allah. That's the spiritual level accepting, the attitude of positivity, how all of this can be at the same time in the same person. And not recognizing this results in all kinds of problems, all kinds of judgments of the self or others, which are which further pathologize the whole situation. So إنه لا ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم الكافرون. So for sure, no one despairs of the mercy of Allah except the disbelieving people. Against hoping against hope, when everything at the psychological and physical level is pointing towards there being no hope, yet he holds strong because he has the spiritual capacity to do so. And that's what makes human beings human. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. So when they appeared before Yusuf, قالوا, they said, يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزِ Minister مَسَّنَا وَأَهْلَنَا الضَّرْ. Picture Abu Sufyan begging Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, renew the pact, renew the treaty of Hudaybiyah, have mercy on us. You're very merciful. Minister, adversity has stricken us and our family. وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ. And we have brought goods of poor quality. فَأَوْفِ لَنَا الْكَيْلِ. But give us full measure. وَتَصَدَّقَ عَلَيْنَا. And be charitable to us. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْزِي الْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ. Allah for sure rewards those who are charitable. قَالَ هَلْ عَلِمْتُمْ مَا فَعَلْتُمْ بِيُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ. He asked, do you know what you did to Yusuf and his brother? إِذْ أَنْتُمْ جَاهِلُونَ. When you were ignorant. This is Yusuf alayhi salam revealing himself. Again, the very beginning of the surah, when Yusuf alayhi salam as a kid, as a child, he's in the well and Allah tells him there will come a day and you will inform them of this. When this surah is being revealed, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is in that situation. And this surah is Allah telling Rasulullah that there will come a day where you will be telling them about this, where you will be coming, standing in front of them, reminding them of the evil that they did, and then they will finally acknowledge your greatness. They will finally accept that you deserved to be the chosen one, something that they could not swallow 20 years ago, something that was simply unacceptable for them. How could he be chosen, not us? All of this, whatever goes around from migration all the way to the conquest of Mecca, breaks all of those layers of arrogance and self-deception. And they are able to accept and humble themselves and say, yes, we accept. Allah made the right choice in choosing you to be the prophet. And so here Yusuf reveals himself to his brothers. قَالَ هَلْ عَلِمْتُمْ مَا فَعَلْتُمْ بِيُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ إِذْ أَنْتُمْ جَاهِلُونَ. Do you remember what you did to Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant? Ignorant, overwhelmed by these instincts of envy, these passionate drives for power, for your own authority. That was not letting you see anything at all. Knowledge was staring you in the face. You couldn't see it. You couldn't read it. إِذْ أَنْتُمْ جَاهِلُونَ. قالوا, they said, أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ Yusuf. Is it you? Are you Yusuf? قال, he replied, أَنَا Yusuf وَهَذَا أَخِي. I am Yusuf, and this is my brother. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has certainly favored us. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ. For sure, those who observe taqwa and are patient, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah does not allow the reward of the muhsineen to go to waste. At the time, in the 10th year of prophethood, it seems like all the reward of all the muhsineen is not bearing fruit. It is not, it seems to have been going to waste. To get this reassurance at that time, what does it mean? What does it mean to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Qalu Allah, the brother said, by Allah, laqad atharaka Allahu alayna. Allah really has preferred you over us. Wa in kunna lakhatin, and it was us. We were the ones at fault. We made a big mistake. Picture Abu Sufyan, picture the people in Mecca begging Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for mercy, asking him to renew the treaty. Please, we can't do this anymore. We're grief stricken. We're poverty stricken. We can't fight. You know, he's going to his daughter. Why don't you talk to him? He's going to Ali radiallahu ta'ala. Why don't you talk to him? All Yusuf alayhi salam said, La tathriba alaykum al-yawm. No blame on you today. Yaghfirullahu lakum. Allah will forgive you. Wa huwa arhamur rahimin. And He is the most merciful of those who show mercy. Now that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is conquering Mecca with his head bowed down in sajda on his right, and when he sees the people of Mecca, he says the same ayah that Yusuf alayhi salam said when his brothers came back to him. How he had been holding on to this for the entirety of the struggle, from migration all the way to the conquest, and how it expressed itself, rolled off of his tongue in an expression of unprecedented mercy, unprecedented forgiveness. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. He is the most merciful of those who show mercy. اذهبوا بقميصي هذا. And he says, go take this shirt of mine, فألقوه على وجه أبي, and put it on the face of my father, يأتي بصيرا. His sight will return to him. وأتوني بأهلكم أجمعين. And then bring to me all members of your family. وَلَمَّا فَصَلَتِ الْعِيرُ. And when the caravan departed from Egypt, قَالَ أَبُوهُمْ. Their father said, إِنِّي لَأَجِدُ رِيحَ يُوسُف. I feel the scent of Yusuf. لَوْلَا أَن تُفَنِّدُونَ. Even though you're going to think, I've lost it, and it is the weakness of my mind, my old age, that I'm demented, but I feel the scent of Yusuf. قالوا Allah. Those around him, they said, by Allah, إِنَّكَ لَفِي ضَلَالِكَ الْقَدِيمِ. This is, you're suffering from that same delusion of yours. فَلَمَّا أَنْ جَاءَ الْبَشِيرُ. And when the bearer of good news, glad tidings arrived, أَلْقَاهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. He cast the shirt, Yusuf alayhi salam's shirt, on Ya'qub alayhi salam's face. فَارْتَدَّ بَصِيرًا. His sight returned. Now the source of grief, which was the loss of Yusuf, his shirt comes back. The shirt of Yusuf makes an appearance in the story 3 times. Once with false blood, once torn from the back, and this time as a remedy, a treatment for the blindness that Yaqub alayhi salam had been suffering from. فَارْتَدَّ بَصِيرًا. His sight returned. قال, Yaqub alayhi salam said, أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكُمْ. Did I not tell you? إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know from Allah what you don't. أَنَا عِنْدَ الْعَبْدِ ظَنِّي بِهِ. Hadith Qudsi, in which Allah says, I am as my abd thinks of me. For all that time, for all those years, over a decade, perhaps 2, Yaqub alayhi salam held on to that hope. When there was really no reason to hold on to that hope. When, for all practical purposes, hope should have been lost. But he was hanging on to it. And Allah pulls through. Qalu, they said, Ya Abana, our father, istaghfir lana dhunubana. Forgive us our sins. Inna kunna khata'in. We were definitely guilty. Ask Allah to forgive us. Forgive us. Again, the tawbah of the people of Mecca, the tawbah of Abu Sufyan. Qala, Yaqub said, Sawfa astaghfiru lakum rabbi. I will soon ask my Rabb to forgive you. Like right now, still angry. Not doing it right now. But I'll get over this anger. I'll eventually do it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as far as Wahshi was concerned, his Islam was accepted, but Rasulullah could not accept seeing him. It was just too much for what he'd done to Hamza, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And so Yaqub said, I will soon ask Allah to forgive you, my Rabb to forgive you. Innahu huwal ghafur rahim. Most definitely it is him. He is most forgiving, ever merciful. Don't expect me to immediately be able to forgive you. Just, I'll get there. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى Yusuf. So when they all entered upon Yusuf, awa ilayhi abaway, he took his parents to himself, وقال and said, udkhulu Misra insha'Allahu aminin. Enter Egypt secure by the will of Allah. وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. He raised his parents to the throne. وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. And they all fell down in prostration before him. وَقَالَ and he said, يَا أَبَتِ هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَايَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. My father, this is the interpretation of my dream that I saw earlier. قَدْ جَعَلَهَا رَبِّي حَقًّا. My Rabb has made it come true. The rububiyyah of Allah overseeing this entire process from the moment Yusuf alayhi salam saw the dream all the way to the fulfillment of the dream, with all of what his brothers did, with all of what the minister's wife did, the minister did, the other women did, the forgetting of the person who was supposed to have him out of the jail for just mentioning him to the king, but he forgot. And for that forgetfulness, and now finally, Yusuf alayhi salam's dream comes true. And the dream did not come through or come true with Yusuf alayhi salam as a passive onlooker, or just, he's sitting in this roller coaster and holding on, it's going up and it's down, and he has nothing to do with it. His ihsan is acknowledged, his taqwa is acknowledged, his throughout the surah, the attributes of Yusuf alayhi salam, the conduct of Yusuf alayhi salam, that Allah acknowledges and said that كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That is how we reward the people of ihsan. That is how we reward the people of taqwa. The fulfillment of this dream that Yusuf alayhi salam saw as a possibility in the future, it was fulfilled by a collaborative effort. Allah and Yusuf alayhi salam worked together to make this dream come true, which was one of the highest possibilities as far as the destiny of Yusuf alayhi salam was concerned. And this is the one that fell through, despite all of what everybody else did. Even their conniving, demonic, envious, criminal behavior was, by the will of Allah and by the sabr of Yusuf, something so beautiful, something so fruitful came out of it. That the suffering of Yusuf alayhi salam in the well, as a slave, as a prisoner, where he's a victim at so many different levels, yet he is a survivor, yet he is a hero. And because he is a hero through all of these various forms of victimization and suffering, the fruit the meaning of his suffering or in his suffering, when it's actualized, it ends up literally feeding all of Egypt, the adjoining areas, tribes, lands, people, all of them. The famine that would have killed so many, it was life giving. What was potentially death giving, as far as Yusuf alayhi salam was concerned. But his freedom, and he didn't have anything that he could do, he was powerless at the social level, he was powerless at the physical level, at the psychological level, but he was incredibly powerful at the spiritual level. And how using that power to stand upright and maintain that attitude that he had to, the meaning that he actualized extended far beyond his person in space, in the sense that people hundreds of kilometers in the vicinity of Egypt benefited for it for years to come. And then the entire generation of Bani Israel, the entire generation of Bani Israel, through how this story was eternalized in the Bible. And then all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the toughest year of his life, Yusuf alayhi salam's meaningful conduct in his suffering is a solace, is a consolation, is that ahsanul qasas that helps Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stand strong. And if it helps Rasulullah, it helps all of us, all across the 14 centuries until the day of judgment. We owe this debt to Yusuf alayhi salam for standing strong, and how his meaning in suffering is to this day a consolation and a solace in so many different ways. In so many, it is incredible. The suffering was no joke. It was no temporary suffering. It was the inspiration for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he actualized the meaning in all of what he had to suffer through. And then he literally walked in the footsteps of Yusuf alayhi salam and said the very words that Yusuf said when he's conquering Makkah. Ya abati hadha ta'weelu ru'yaya min qabl. He said, this is the interpretation of my dream that I saw earlier. قَدْ جَعَلَهَا رَبِّي حَقًّا. Again, the same attitude of the people of paradise. Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana. That this is all thanks to Allah. My Rabb has made it come true. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي. And he has been very kind to me. He's reassuring his father that I've been looked after. Allah looked after me. إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْنِ. When he brought me out of prison, he starts the story from when he's coming out of prison. He skips all the steps before that. إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْنِ. When he brought me out of prison. وَجَاءَ بِكُم مِنَ الْبَدْوِ. And he brought you from the desert. مِن بَعْدِ أَن نَزَغَ الشَّيْطَانُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ إِخْوَتِي. After Shaitan had stirred up a rift between me and my brothers. إِنَّ رَبِّي لَطِيفٌ لِمَا يَشَاءُ. My Rabb is subtle. So present, yet so imperceptible in all of these affairs as they go around. The Allah being Latif, as how it beautifully springs from this story, how subtle, how in so many delicate ways he he's a part of all of this. Inna Rabbi, and he's part of all of this as the Rabb, as the nurturer, as the one who is looking to bring you to your feet, teach you how to walk, run, fly, through all of this. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْحَكِيمُ. He is, he is definitely knowing, the wise. رَبِّ قَدْ آتَيْتَنِي مِنَ الْمُلْكِ. He said, my Rabb, you have blessed me with kingdom. وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And you have taught me the interpretation of dreams. فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The originator of the heavens and the earth. أنت وليجي في الدنيا والآخرة. You are my protector in this life of this world and in the hereafter. توفني مسلما وألحقني بالصالحين. Make me die as a Muslim and join with the righteous. Again, the humility that Yusuf alayhi salam is expressing when victory is his. When he has gotten back at his brothers, taught them a lesson that they deserved. And yet when he places himself before Allah and how he identifies himself, his presence, his life, he identifies the greatest gifts that Allah has given him, and he is able to place those gifts and himself as they're relevant in the grand scheme of things. As Allah being Fatir as-samawati wal ard, finding your place in the universe, finding your place in the world, that this world is meaningful, and there's stuff that I've been given that is awesome, that there's a place that I have in it, there is something that I have to do. And to be able to see that in your friendship with Allah. أنت وليي في الدنيا والآخرة. You're my friend in this world and in the hereafter. And to be able to see how those gifts, as they add up, as they line up, as they make sense with everything else going on in history of the universe, and to be able to see the fulfillment of that meaning and really being grateful for those gifts and the recognition of their value in the grand scheme of things, in remaining Muslim till you die, and to want to be in the company of the righteous. Again, the humility before Allah, but humility for that community of good people. ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ. This is from the news of the unseen. نُوحِيهِ إِلَيْكَ, which we reveal to you, Ya Rasulullah. وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ. You weren't with them. إِذْ أَجْمَعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ. When they agreed their plan. If you were to take a cross-section of the whole story and Yusuf alayhi Islam's brothers making their plan, like, oh my God, humanity is all evil. People are all bad. This sucks. This is, what's the point in all of this? وَهُمْ يَمْكُرُونَ. While they were scheming. How latif Allah is, even there. How he's able to draw something so incredible, something so beautiful out of that. وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And despite your desire, most people will not believe. حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. That's who Rasulullah is, right? Allah acknowledges that here as well. As much as you want, most people will still not believe. They'll hear your story. They'll see how beautiful it is. It still won't make a difference to them. وَمَا تَسْأَلُهُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ. You didn't ask any money from them for this. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. This is just a reminder for all the people. وَكَأَيٍّ مِنْ آيَةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And are you surprised that they don't take the story seriously? Are you surprised that you, having responded to their challenge, again, you didn't ask them, ask me this question and then I'm going to give you this answer. No. They came up with the question and you gave such an elaborate response. That has caught them off guard. They didn't expect this. But still, they're not going to listen. Don't be surprised. They ignore every single ayah in the heavens and the earth every day anyways. وَكَأَيٍّ مِّنْ آيَةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. How many signs in the heavens and the earth يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا, which they just pass by. وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. And they pay no attention to it. وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ. And most of them don't believe in Allah إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ, except that they commit some shirk. They're believers in Allah. Apparently, they're even monotheists. With some level of shirk comes in. أَفَأَمِنُوا So they feel secure and تَأْتِيهُمْ غَاشِيَةٌ مِّنْ عَذَابِ اللَّهِ That there will not come to them an overwhelming event from the punishment of Allah. أَوْ يَأْتِيهُمُ السَّاعَةُ بَغْتَةً Or there comes to them the moment, that hour, all of a sudden, وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ And they have no idea. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِ Tell them, this is my way. أدعو إلى الله I call towards Allah على بصيرة with insight أنا ومن اتبعني I and those who follow me وسبحان الله and exalted is Allah وما أنا من المشركين and I am not of those who commit shirk وما أرسلنا من قبلك and we did not send before you messengers إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم من أهل القرى except men to whom we gave revelation from the people of the town we chose them from the human beings living there أفلم يسيروا في الأرض So haven't they traveled through the land فينظروا to see كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم How was the end of those before them ولدار الآخرة خير للذين اتقوا And the home of the hereafter is definitely the best for those who have the taqwa of Allah أفلا تعقلون So are you then not going to use your reason حتى إذا استيأس الرسل Until when the messengers gave hope Again, the whole story is ringing with grief and suffering Rasulullah at that point is in the midst of suffering. And he is being told that yes, that time does come when even the messengers give up hope. وَظَنُّوا And start thinking, at least at the level of thought, this possibility is entertained. And you will find in a lot of translations and explanations, it's asterisk or this bracket that says that no, the prophets weren't thinking this. It was the other people thinking this. If we want to demonize even the possibility of these thoughts so much that it's so unprophetic, it is so impious to even think this, knowing that as far as thoughts are concerned, you're not held to blame. They're a reaction to your environment. So until the prophets gave up hope, the messengers, and started thinking أنهم قد كذبوا, that they were being lied to, that this promise of Allah, this help of Allah, the clouds became that dark that it was pitch black, that to trust that the sun was still there, it required every ounce of faith you could possibly muster. جَاءَهُمْ نَصْرُنَا It was at that point that our help came to them. فَنُجِّيَ مَن نَشَاءُ So we saved whoever we wanted. وَلَا يُرَدُّ بَأْسُنَا عَنِ الْقَوْمِ الْمُجْرِمِينَ And our punishment cannot be repelled from the criminals. At the level of thought, entertaining the possibility that maybe the promise of Allah is not going to come true. At the level of emotion, losing hope. But at the level of practice and attitude, the two which are from your spiritual dimension of your personality, standing strong as best as you possibly can. That's when help comes. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ In their stories, there is a lesson for the people of understanding. مَا كَانَ حَدِيثًا يُفْتَرَى This is not a narration. This is not something that is just invented. وَلَكِنْ تَصْدِيقَ الَّذِي بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ But it is a confirmation of what exists before it. The other scriptures have their versions of the story of Yousuf alayhi salam. If anything, they're being corroborated. وَتَفْصِيلَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ And it explains everything. وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً It is a guidance and a mercy. لِقَوْمِ يُؤْمِنُونَ For a believing people. What do we do from here on in? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sahaba, that's a very real question for them. And they're hurt. Where do we go from here? And we're hurt. We're in pain. So we see this surah giving hidayah, and we see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam following that hidayah. And we see this surah placing that expressing that mercy, that shoulder for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to lean on, that arm around his back, that it's okay. That's mercy. لِقَوْمِ يُؤْمِنُونَ, for the believing people. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Moving right along with Surah Al-Ra'd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم را. تلك آيات الكتاب. These are the ayat of the book. والذي أنزل إليك من ربك الحق. And that which has been revealed to you from your Rabb is the truth. ولكن أكثر الناس لا يؤمنون. But most people do not believe. الله الذي رفع السماوات بغير عمد ترونها. And Allah is the one who raised the heavens without any visible support. ثم استوى على العرش. And then He established Himself on the throne. وسخر الشمس والقمر. And He subjected the sun and the moon to the service of humanity. كل يجري لأجل مسمى. Each running its course for a definite time. يدبر الأمر. Allah arranges each matter. يفصل الآيات. And He spells out the ayat. لعلكم بلقاء ربكم توقنون. So that you may have a conviction in meeting your Rabb. The more you reflect over the ayat of Allah, the more you're able to see the tadbir in the ayat of Allah as to how they are representative of the amr of Allah. And the more you reflect over the imminent death, or how all of it has, there's this inherent boundedness to it. There's a deadline that this is not just going to go on forever. Each human being has one. Each community has one. And then of course the world itself has one. And so for you to recognize that, as you recognize all the beautiful ayat of Allah, وَهُوَ الَّذِي مَدَّ الْأَرْض, and He is the one who spread out the earth, وَجَعَلَ فِيهَا رَوَاسِيَ وَأَنْهَارًا, and He set thereon mountains and flowing rivers. وَمِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ جَعَلَ فِيهَا زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ, and He created all types of fruit in pairs, two and two. يُغْشِي اللَّيْلَ النَّهَارِ, He covers the day with night. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for sure there are signs in that for a people looking to reflect. Because قَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ, people looking to believe. If you are in fact looking to believe, then there is a lot that you have to chew on so as to be able to conclude, think through, so that you're able to reach those conclusions, come to those beliefs. And then there is those reflections, that the possibility for which these ayats are inviting you to. وَفِي الْأَرْضِ قِطَّعٌ مُتَجَاوِرَاتٍ, and on earth there are tracts side by side. وَجَنَّاتٌ مِّنْ أَعْنَابٍ, and vineyards. وَزَرْعٌ, and crops. وَنَخِيلٌ صِنْوَانٌ وَغَيْرُ صِنْوَانٍ, and date palm trees with single roots or otherwise. يُسْقَى بِمَاءٍ وَاحِدٍ, and all of them are irrigated by the same water. Same water, yet all the diversity that you see in front of you, around you. وَنُفَضِّلُ بَعْضَهَا عَلَى بَعْضٍ فِي الْأُكُلِ, yet we make some of them excel over others in taste. Some taste better, others not so much, even from within the same fruit. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ, and for sure in all of this are ayat for a people of intellect, a people who use their reasoning ability, a people who use their reflective capacity, a people who are prone to belief, a people who are looking to believe. Again, any one of these goes missing, and whatever you're going to come up with is going to be deficient as a representation of reality, which is fine, but that's worse when it's made worse. It's incredibly problematic when that which is deficient is claimed to be the absolute. That this is the entire description of reality or understanding of reality, that there is nothing else to reality than this. وَإِن تَعْجَبْ, so if you are amazed, فَعَجَبٌ قَوْلُهُم, then amazing is their comment when they say, إِذَا كُنَّا تُرَابًا, what, when we are all dust, إِنَّا لَفِي خَلْقٍ جَدِيدٍ, could we then really be raised to a new life? If they're amazed by this possibility of being resurrected, Allah is amazed at how can they not believe? In the sense, of course, He knows, but it's just why that's what's there to be amazed about. There's so many amazing things around you. Why does it amaze you that you're going to be resurrected? It is amazing that you're amazed given all the amazements around you. I hope that made sense. إِنَّ لَفِي خَلْقٍ جَدِيدٍ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ, these are the ones who deny their Rabb. وَأُولَٰئِكَ الْأَغْلَالُ فِي أَعْنَاقِهِمْ, and these are the ones who will have iron collars around their necks. Again, fitting the arrogance that they're depicting, the high-headedness that they're depicting. Sure, we're going to put collars around your necks to match your attitude. وَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ, and these are the companions of the hellfire. هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ, and they'll live therein forever. وَيَسْتَعْجِلُونَكَ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ قَبْلَ الْحَسَنَةِ, and they are urging you to bring about the evil rather than the good, i.e. the punishment. They want the punishment to be brought for them. وَقَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمُ الْمَثُلَاتِ, while similar punishments have already been given out before them. They want a sample, they already have samples to see. It's best that they learn from those rather than asking for their own. وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَذُو مَغْفِرَةٍ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَىٰ ظُلْمِهِمْ, and your Rabb is full of forgiveness for mankind despite their injustice, their oppression, their dhulm. Just this demand that they're making, if Allah was to fulfill this, that would have been the end of it. But He's still forgiving, forgiving, forgiving. وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَشَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ, and for sure your Rabb is stern in punishment. You have evidence for that. وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and the disbelievers object, لَوْلَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْهِ آيَةٌ مِّن رَبِّهِ, why was there no sign sent down to him from his Rabb? Again, that same ayah, as they describe ayah, on their demand, that supernatural, that miracle thing that they want. إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُنذِرٌ, you're just a warner, Ya Rasulullah. وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ هَادٍ, and for every people there is a guide. Allah يَعْلَمُ مَا تَحْمِلُ كُلُّ أُنثَى, Allah is the one who knows what every female carries. وَمَا تَغِيضُ الْأَرْحَامُ وَمَا تَزْدَادُ, and He is fully aware of how much the wombs fall short or exceed of the term of the pregnancy, how preterm, how post-term. وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ عِنْدَهُ بِمِقْدَارٍ, and everything with Him is measured. عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ الْكَبِيرُ الْمُتَعَالِ, knower of the seen and the unseen, He is the great, the highest. سَوَاءٌ مِنْكُمْ, of you it is all the same to Him. مَنْ أَسَرَّ الْقَوْلِ, the one who speaks secretly. وَمَنْ جَهَرَ بِهِ, and the one who speaks openly or aloud. وَمَنْ هُوَ مُسْتَخْفٍ بِاللَّيْلِ, and the one who is hidden by night. وَسَارِبٌ بِالنَّهَارِ, or walking around in the daylight. لَهُ مُعَقِّبَاتٍ, he has angels supervising. مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ, from before him and behind him. يَحْفُظُونَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ, they guard him with the amr of Allah. Again, so much of what goes around in our daily lives, and then there's these incidents that make you realize, whoa, that was a close call. That if you were really to reflect upon those close calls, by all measures of probability, that should have been the end. By all measures of all the odds that you can possibly consider, what went around in that accident or that near-death experience, it should have been an end. It is pretty inexplicable how we continue to survive. It is not a wonder how many people have accidents and get injured and die. It is a wonder how many people don't, given the circumstances are pretty similar. Given what they experience are pretty similar events and incidents. It is not a wonder that there is so many people who get infected, get diseased, and the infection gets the better of them and they die. That's not a wonder given the load of pathogens that we're aware of, that are all over us, all around us, inside of us. It is a wonder how so many of us do not get infected, ill, and die. That the fraction that do is a very disproportionately small fraction than the viral load or the bacterial load that is actually out there. That's what's surprising. That is what is amazing. And so, what explains that is the amr of Allah, that it is His, um, the meaningful end towards which your lives are preserved. There is stuff for you to do. There's functions that you have to perform. There's meaning that you have to actualize. There is a uniqueness that you have to bring to the fore. يَحْفَظُونَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ. And for sure, Allah never changes the condition of a people حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ, until they change what is within themselves. Very interesting that this phrase of the ayah is part of the phrase that talks about that grace of Allah that is protecting, in the form of angels, protecting human beings from before them and from behind them. You have a change to bring about. And this is one of the couplets of Allama Iqbal, where he talks about, it's in Farsi, and I'm going to mess it up if I attempt the Farsi, but nevertheless, something to the effect of Guftan ke jahane ma, that Allah said to me that my world, did you like it? Did it please you? Allama says, Guftam ke banamisa, that I didn't like it. I did not like it. And then he said, the response I got from Allah is, change it. Barhamzan, destroy it, turn it upside down, change it. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم. Allah does not change the condition of a people حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم, until they change what is within themselves. What is that amr of Allah that is holding it together for us, despite all the probability that we shouldn't be? We're still here. We survive. We thrive. The the gross irresponsibility with which we lead our lives, with how we disregard our physical health, yet we continue to drag ourselves along. There is something. There is something we got to do, and that something is that يغير ما بقوم, that change that has to come in your qawm, because you have to change yourselves. Now you identify that as the meaning or the reason why. And that's all of the survival and all of the amazing ways in which human beings continue to thrive. Amazing as it is amazing towards a direction, a meaning. Live it, do it, change it, what you don't like, what Allah doesn't like either, what Allah wants you to change. He took a step back in not changing it himself, because you could step forward and you change it. So you grow and you become worthy of him. حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم وإذا أراد الله بقوم سوءا. And when Allah decides to afflict a people with ill, with pain, with punishment, with distress, فلا مرد له, then there is no averting it. There is no running away from it. وما لهم من دونه من وال, and they will have no protector but him. هو الذي يريكم البرق. He's the one who shows you lightning. خوفا وطمعا, creating a fear and hope. وينشئ السحاب الثقال, and he also raises heavy clouds. ويسبح الرعد بحمده والملائكة من خيفته, and the thunder exalts Allah, praising him, and the angels as well, out of fear for him. ويرسل السواعق, and he sends the thunderbolts. ويصيب بها من يشاء, and he strikes with it whoever he wants. وهم يجادلون في الله, and the disbelievers dispute about Allah. Again, isn't it a wonder? This lightning that is a carrier, this harbinger of hope, but it is also an expression of his power. It brings you rain, but that thunderbolt may as well strike someone. And at times it does, but that striking of someone is very infrequent. That's not the norm. Usually people don't get struck by lightning. Most bolts of lightning, they they don't hit anyone, but they have that. He's continuously showing you his strength and his power of what he can do, but he doesn't. So that you think about it, reflect over it, do what you got to do. This thunder is exalting the praise of Allah, doing the tasbih of Allah. Allah wants for you as a people of the Quran to be able to appreciate Allah in the world around you. The way you look at lightning after you read these ayats should be different. Similarly, the way you read these ayats after you've seen lightning, reflected over it, delved into it, the processes around it, they should be different. وَهُوَ الشَّدِيدُ وَهُمْ يُجَادِلُونَ فِي اللَّهِ. Yet they dispute, they have these arguments about Allah. وَهُوَ الشَّدِيدُ الْمِحَالِ. And He is severe in assault. لَهُ دَعْوَةُ الْحَقِّ. To Him alone is the supplication of truth. وَالَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ. And those whom they invoke besides Him. It is justified, it is truthful to rely on Him, to call on Him, to dedicate your tawheed to Him. But then all of these others that you're banking on other than Allah, لا يستجيبون لهم بشيء. They don't respond to them one bit. Allah responds. Al-Haq, the call towards Him or calling Him, supplicating before Him, it is reciprocated, responded. But those that that you afford that power, that strength to, that can't do that lightning and thunder and rain. Those du'as are going nowhere. لا يستجيبون لهم بشيء إلا كباسط كفيه إلى الماء. They're but like someone who extends his hands towards water. ليبلغ فاه, wishing that water should reach his mouth. وما هو ببالغه, but it is not going to reach him. Just as incapable as water is to just jump up and spring into your mouth, that's how useless your deities are to respond to you. Like standing like water, come here, aloha more, or like, no, I forgot the charm that you bring stuff. Asio, something like the ACIO, something. Water. Doesn't work. Doesn't happen. What are you smoking? Thinking that's going to happen. And that's so much of what you're calling on all of these deities other than Allah is about, so that you don't have to get off of your backside and get the water yourself. It's not going to happen. You have to get up and bring it yourself. Part of supplicating to Allah is that it's supposed to make you proactive, not passive. As you're sitting on your backsides and just do this, do this, do this. No, get up and get it. Get up and do it. And yes, then there is so much other than you that has to be done for the effect to really come about. He'll take care of that. وَمَا هُوَ بِبَالِغِ. It is not going to reach him. وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. And the call of the disbelievers is completely lost. وَلِلَّهِ يَسْجُدُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And before Allah alone prostrate whoever is in the heavens and the earth. طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا. Willingly or unwillingly. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam were not prostrating before Allah when they're planning and conspiring against Yusuf. That wasn't exactly the most Muslim attitude. That wasn't exactly what they were supposed to do. Nevertheless, Allah was able to incorporate their demonic, conniving, envious plan into His grand divine plan. as unwillingly as unwilling as it was, it ended up being a sajda before Allah, because he has that capacity to bring life out of death. طوعا وكرها وظلالهم, as do their shadows, بالغدو والآصال, in morning and evening. قل من رب السماوات والأرض, ask them, who is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth? قل لله, say it is Allah. قل أفاتخذتم من دونه أولياء, tell them, then do you still take others as protectors besides him? لا يملكون لأنفسهم, those who do not control even for themselves نفعا ولا ضرا, any benefit or harm. قل هل يستوي الأعمى والبصير, ask them, is the blind and the one who can see, are they the same? Are they the same? هل تستوي الظلمات والنور, or can darkness be equal to light? جعلوا لله شركاء, have they those whom they ascribe as partners with Allah? خلقوا كخلقه, can those partners, have they created like his creation? His creation is around you, in front of you. What is it that is a reflection of the power of those that you have relied upon, depended upon, to the exclusion of Allah? فَتَشَابَهَ الْخَلْقُ عَلَيْهِمْ, so the creation seemed similar to them and they got confused. What's going on? قُلْ لِلَّهُ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, tell them, Allah is the one who is the creator of everything. Anything that you end up relying on, again, for the people of Arabia, it's pretty plain and easy to see that it's idols that they have replaced Allah with. That the relationship with Allah, this relationship of Tawheed, this interaction, it is very demanding. It asks of you to be more responsible, to be more disciplined, and to be more cautious, especially of your relationships with others, with other human beings, those distant from you, those lower than you in finances or social status or whatever. And that's quite a lot to ask. It is so much simpler and easier to have your spiritual needs fulfilled with all of these other deities who are not going to ask of you to do any of those things, any of those responsibilities. It's like all profit, no loss. It's like it's a relationship of it's an it's friends with benefits. All benefits, no responsibility. That's the kind of relationship this that's the infidelity. That's how this is infidelity, this idolatrous relationship, that you have all the fun but you have no responsibility. And so it is very convenient to assume that these lifestyles, these all benefits, all perks, and no responsibility lifestyle is going to be enough for you, for your needs in the long run. It is very convenient, but it doesn't work. It keeps coming back at you in various forms of physical, psychological, spiritual distress that you have to face, and seeing how that lifestyle let you down, your deities let you down, your idolatrous ways of life let you down. That all you're left with is the dog that you're living with and nobody else around you, because you didn't want any responsibility. So now you have no real personality, no real fruits of that you can benefit from later on, because you didn't choose the path of real relationship. You chose the path of immediate gratification with nothing on your end. And so, why would you do that? What evidence of strength, what evidence of power do your deities have to offer you, or do these concepts have to offer you, that they have actually pulled through and really given something substantial to those who follow those idolatrous ways, those concepts, those lifestyles? Did it work out for them? Did they really grow? Were they really people who were substantially contributing in the world that you're living in, and that they lived up to their potentials? Were they really able to do that? The needs that they felt that all of these idolatrous ways would fulfill for them, were those needs actually fulfilled, or what, did they always have to fall flat on their faces? More lost than when they started, that when they absolutized that, when they placed in the place of God that thing or that person or that whatever goal that they'd set for themselves. Did it work? It wasn't going to. So why? What makes you think that you're going to continue to put your fingers in the fire and it's not going to burn you the 11th time or the 100th time or the 1000th time? When will you learn? قُلِ اللَّهُ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Tell them Allah is the creator of everything. وَهُوَ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. And He is the one, the irresistible. أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. Allah sends down water from the sky. فَسَالَتْ أَوْدِيَةٌ بِقَدْرِهَا. And valleys flow according to their capacity. فَاحْتَمَلَ السَّيْلُ زَبَدًا رَابِيًا. And so the torrents rise carrying foam. وَمِمَّا يُوقِدُونَ عَلَيْهِ فِي النَّارِ. And similarly, when they heat up metal in the fire, ابْتِغَاءَ حِلْيَةٍ أَوْ مَتَاعٍ. In order to make ornaments or utensils, زَبَدٌ مِثْلُهُ. There is a foam similar to this. كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ وَالْبَاطِلَ. That is how Allah depicts truth and falsehood. فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً. As for the foam, it just disappears. وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ. As for that which is going to be beneficial, fruitful for humanity, فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That stays on earth. كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالِ. That is how Allah presents examples. That is how humanity progresses in its understanding. That is the progressive nature of truth, as to how through this process, this filtration process, two examples of which you were given, one depicting truth coming from the skies, the other depicting truth coming from the earth, and how both processes or both sources of truth they go through this filtration process, that because the truth gets mixed up with falsehood, but then as time progresses, you're able to filter out the truth from the falsehood, just like you're able to filter out pure gold from its ore, or any other um, useful mineral from that which it is clumped up with. And that process of acquiring knowledge is similar, of understanding haqq and filter it out from batil. Whether it is haqq that came from the skies or haqq that came from the earth, it has to go through those processes for human understanding. Because either way, human beings are the interpreters of that haqq. They have to have it go through that process of filtration for that foam to dissipate, to settle, and so as to be able to extract that which is pure, which is true. And this continuously happens. This continuously happens. The capacity of the valley, the rain, as far as it's concerned, it can be very overwhelming. How much can you retain? And there's only so much you can retain. And once the rain has fallen, it has gotten mixed up with all the gunk that was there, and the foam has to dissipate. We don't always have that capacity, especially when it comes to knowledge coming from the sky, to assimilate all of it or to just take it all in. We can't. We simply can't. It's too much. And so, necessarily and naturally, as this process goes forward, where we have to learn step by step what was that which was revealed to us, and to make sense of it progressively together as a community. Absolute claims to truth for that reason have no space. You have to trust the process, you have to engage in the process, and you have these truths coming from multiple sources that you have to give credence to, allow them to come into this relationship. لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمُ الْحُسْنَى. And for those who respond to the call of their Rabb is the best reward. وَالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُ. Whereas those who did not respond to him, لَوْ أَنَّ لَهُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا, even though they own all of what is in the earth, وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ, and as much in addition to it, لَافْتَدَوْا بِهِ, they will definitely like to pay it as ransom. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْحِسَابِ. These are the ones who will face terrible reckoning. وَمَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ, and their abode will be the hellfire. وَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادِ, and what an evil resting place it is. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.